Aw yeah, Duke Nukem. Who doesn't love Duke Nukem? I love Duke Nukem. You should love Duke Nukem. Duke Nukem! Whenever I talk to people about Duke Nukem, they always bring up Duke Nukem 3D or Duke Nukem I was in development forever. Get it? It's a joke. Surprisingly though, voice crack. Surprisingly though, not many people bring up the very first Duke Nukem game, which seems odd to me. It could just be that it's outdated or that it's nothing like the other Duke Nukem games, but this game just doesn't seem to get the recognition it deserves. It did start the series after all. Released for the MS-DOS in 1991, the original Duke Nukem was released in 3 different episodes, the first of which being a shareware title. The game did fairly well considering the MS-DOS wasn't as popular of a gaming platform as the NES or SNES. The game's success could be partially attributed to the fact that the first episode was released for free. The story, straight from the in-game instructions, is as follows. The year is 1997. Dr. Proton and his army of tech bots have taken over Earth's largest city, which apparently can't be named or anything. Once a respected genius and scientist, Dr. Proton, he changed his name from Blunderwitz early in his career, decided he could rule Earth with a new world order. Also, it was really important that you know he changed his name because that's an important detail. After a terrible radiation accident that altered his brain, Dr. Proton took to the underworld and developed an army of advanced robots called tech bots. The tech bots are extremely dangerous and guard Dr. Proton's secret hideout. Every attempt by the military to overcome Dr. Proton ended in disaster. It seems Dr. Proton's plans to rule Earth is well underway. Self-proclaimed hero Duke Nukem is Earth's final chance. Hired by the CIA, despite only being a self-proclaimed hero and not a real hero. Duke has orders to stop Dr. Proton and rid the world of this latest madman. Armed with only his pistol and his can-do attitude, Duke is the one person who might stand a chance of success. Since, you know, one guy is much tougher than the entire military. Okay, maybe I'm being a little too sarcastic here, but come on, this summary was written like a Harry Potter fanfiction. So you're the pitiful hero they sent to stop me. I, Dr. Proton, will rule the world. You're wrong, Proton Breath. I'll be done with you and still have time to watch Oprah. Oh, Duke, you sly dog, you. Will you listen to that? That, my friends, is the sound of silence. Exactly what I would expect from an action game. Okay, there are plenty of DOS games that don't have music, so I can let this one slide. And hey, the game still has sound effects. Lots and lots of sound effects. A whole ton of sound effects. So I guess I should start talking about the gameplay at some point. Duke Nukem is a game where you shoot things and do stuff. Yeah, good start. Good script writing. The game is divided into levels, each with the same goal of getting to the exit gate. This goal isn't as simple as it sounds though, as you have to find keys to unlock doors in order to access certain parts of every level. Not to mention, most levels are fairly big and non-linear, so you'll have to do some searching to find all the keys. Also blocking your path are several different enemies, like midget robots, Fisher Price tanks, ATSTs, Energizer bunnies, and, fire. Luckily you're equipped with your pistol and his can-do attitude, so you aren't defenseless. Well, unless you run into a helicopter. Those things are fast, hard to kill, and, like the majority of helicopters, can fly. There came a point when I was playing where I'd just run away from helicopters to avoid losing too much health. Oh right, that's something worth mentioning. This game gives you a health meter, so you aren't completely screwed if you mess up, which is fairly nice considering how hard the game gets, but we'll talk about that later. Scattered throughout each level are various items. These items are often found by shooting boxes, and what the boxes contain depends on their color. Blue boxes give you items that increase your score, such as footballs, joysticks, and copies of Duke Nukem. Red boxes give you items that restore your health, such as soda and turkey legs. Gray boxes can hold a huge variety of items, including key cards, weapon upgrades, and sometimes items that are required to beat the game. Be careful with those gray boxes though. They aren't all filled with puppies and rainbows. Something this game does that I really enjoy is that it tests your trigger finger. The camera's zoomed in fairly close, so it's not always easy to know what lies ahead. So if an enemy's on screen, you want to shoot it quickly. The problem is, certain items are affected by your shot as well. Shooting balloons, which earn you the most points if collected, pops them, leaving you unable to collect them. Similarly, shooting soda cans launches them off the screen. This mechanic develops a habit of hesitating before shooting, which gives the game a very interesting challenge. Shooting a soda can in a firefight is a common occurrence, and it can really sting if you're low on health. This mechanic isn't all bad though. Shooting a turkey leg cooks it, meaning it'll heal 2 health points instead of 1. It's all about thinking before you shoot. Since this game's a platformer, I guess I should talk about the platforming mechanics. Duke jumps at a fixed height, meaning no matter how long you hold down the jump button, he'll never jump any higher or lower than his maximum jump height. This isn't a terrible thing, though it sometimes means that you end up committing to jumps that you can't make. And missing a platform in some levels can be devastating. Accidentally falling can mean losing a ton of progress or having to deal with enemies that you initially decided to run past. Luckily, there are no bottomless pits, so jumps of faith aren't a death wish. In fact, sometimes jumping blindly can bring you to secret areas, and that's another thing that makes Duke Nukem a cool game. Each level has 1 or more secret areas hidden in it, and while they can be hard to get to, you're often rewarded for your hard work with health and points. Getting to secret areas can mean doing some difficult platforming, finding secret keys, and walking through fake walls. Be careful though, the level designers can be real dicks when it comes to secret areas. Okay, that was just mean. As you go through the levels, you'll be finding items that give Duke new abilities that help him progress further. These items include a robot hand that activates platforms, a grappling hook that lets you climb on certain ceilings, and boots that make you jump higher. Holy halibut, was that a flip? Who knew Duke was such an acrobatic guy? Between levels, you'll find yourself in a hallway leading to the next level. These act as checkpoints, so if you die, you'll just start at the last hallway. Although, you'll start with the amount of health you had when you were there last time. These are also the only places in the game where you can save your progress, so it's best to do so every time you find yourself there. Each hallway also has a sign in it, and it usually tells you some sort of hint or tip to get through the game. A secret shortcut, huh? Let's see if I can find that. Uh-oh. Looks like I'd have to sacrifice health to take the shortcut. Screw it, here I go. And then it worked. The end. Okay, here I am at the last level of episode 1. The hint said I'd be fighting Dr. Proton here, so I just gotta find— Whoa, there he is! Just like that, the game throws you into a boss fight. I didn't even bother learning his attack pattern. I just shot as much as I could before I died so I wouldn't have to restart the level. And surprisingly enough, that actually worked. But Duke's mission isn't over yet, because Dr. Proton escapes to the moon! Wait, the moon? Yeah, so apparently Dr. Proton has a base on that round rock thing orbiting the Earth, and episode 2 is all about getting to that base and stopping his evil plans once and for all. There isn't really too much to say about episode 2 that I haven't already talked about. The gameplay is exactly the same, but the levels are different. It's worth noting that your saves from other episodes don't carry over, so you don't have any of your gun upgrades or items you've collected. You're starting from scratch. The difficulty is also much higher than in the previous episode, and I found myself dying much more often. I am glad the game did get harder though, because the first episode was lacking in challenging levels. I suppose I shouldn't be too happy though, because this episode also contains my least favorite level of the game. This level. This level is my personal hell, the bane of my existence. It's really hard. Well, GiraffeQuest, what makes this level so bad? You probably didn't ask. Allow me to explain. See those conveyor belts? They don't look so menacing, right? Let's just take a step on them and oh man! The conveyor belts move you at the same speed you run at. This means you can't run in the opposite direction without jumping. And this is a problem because the very beginning of this level consists of jumping across a billion different conveyor belts. It certainly doesn't help that there's no way to tell which way the conveyor belts are moving until you jump on them. Being unsure of which way the next conveyor belt was going to take me was my #1 cause of falling off. And what happens when you fall off? You're sent back to the beginning to do it all again. Maybe it's my fault for sucking at games in general, But when I don't feel any satisfaction after beating a challenging part, and instead feel angry that I had to go through it, then there's something wrong with the level. I should stop dwelling on this though. It was just one part of a game filled with some masterfully designed levels. Besides, I think my high score for episode 2 speaks for itself when it comes to this particular section. I guess since I couldn't fit it anywhere else, now would be a decent time to talk about graphics. They're okay. There's not really much to be said. The sprites look okay, the tiles look okay, the backgrounds look okay. Nothing to complain about, but nothing to praise either. One thing that's pretty impressive is that in levels with water on the ground, you can see the reflection of everything around you with a cool, watery, wavy effect. It's a nice touch. Oh man, it's that time again.
Challenge time!
No, not that time. That time. Time to fight Dr. Proton again. The fight is slightly harder this time around since the room layout is different, but it's nothing overly difficult. I realized just how simple his pattern is this time around. It's as easy as jumping over him when he dives at you and not getting hit by his shots. Okay, maybe that's a little easier said than done, but still, this boss fight's a bit disappointing. Oh well, at least I beat him. Although, there is still another episode to play. So my guess is Dr. Proton isn't done getting his ass kicked quite yet. And my guess was right. Dr. Proton decides to escape into the future. Okay, not only is that extremely cliche, but escaping into the future? That's a terrible idea. The amount of time between his departure and arrival into the future could easily be spent preparing defenses against him. He'll be up against futuristic technology that he's never seen before. He'll be pulverized by giant robot gorillas. It would be much smarter to travel into the past. That way he could rule over humanity with his superior technology. Villains these days. So just like episode 2, episode 3 of Duke Nukem has no changes in the gameplay mechanics, and once again you start off with no items. Also following the pattern so far is the increase in difficulty, and man does it get difficult. This level with all the platforms is insane. Everything looks the same and there are jumping robots everywhere. The challenge is welcomed though. It gave me a great sense of satisfaction when I beat a difficult section, and I wasn't constantly losing progress due to any unfair mechanics. There really isn't that much more to say about episode 3. The formula, once again, is the same as the first episode. You find all the same items, discover more secrets, fight all the same enemies, and fight the same final boss. Ah, whoa, there he is! Jesus, I was not ready for this. I knew I was in the final level, but I wasn't expecting to just drop into the boss room at the end. If I'd known, I would've looked for health or something. Ugh. Oh well, at least I have infinite lives. Oh, wait, did I mention that? This game has no lives system. You can't get a game over no matter how many times you die. I guess I should have mentioned that earlier. I did it. I beat him. Oh hey, it's the only song in the entire game. Dr. Proton is finally defeated. Using Proton's time warp device, Duke returns to Earth's present and is presented with the key to the city he saved. Yeah. Yep, that there is one satisfying ending. Take some notes, Hollywood. And that's Duke Nukem. Sure, it's not a perfect game, and it hasn't aged all that well, but I still really enjoyed it and would recommend that you try it. You know, it's a shame that the first Duke Nukem game was overshadowed by the sequels, but I suppose it makes sense. The other Duke Nukem games were massive improvements over the original, and maybe that's a good sign. After all, this is my first video, so like Duke Nukem, I can only improve from here, right? Right?